Hi, this is Regeline Sabah, also known as Gigi. You're listening to Walk With Me podcast. My guests today are Melahni, Dr. Doreen Downing, and Deborah Beecham. And today we are going to discuss our upcoming global virtual panel of Anxiety Survivors event that will take place on April 9th at 5 p.m. Eastern. Welcome back to the show, Melahni and Dr. Doreen, and welcome, Deborah.
Thank you very much.
Yes.
You're welcome. It's an honor to have you all here today. Now, I need all of you to introduce yourselves. Let's start off with Melahni. Please introduce yourself, then Dr. Doreen, and then Deborah.
Well, hello, I'm Melahni Ake. I am the founder of Everyday Leaders, Professional Coaching and Consulting. And for many months, Gigi and I have been doing these global virtual panels. So it's been really fun to be the MC and the host for all of these panels. And what I love about people is every single person has leadership qualities and potential. And through the struggles of all of these panels that we're learning how people are overcoming things in their lives, they're strategizing and implementing a plan to become better and stronger. So I applaud all the efforts of UGG because people are really starting to take action in their lives just from being a part of these. So thank you for inviting me to, again, be another part of this as the MC for this anxiety panel. I think all of us are suffering through anxiety at some capacity through the last year of COVID, however it's affected us. So I'm really excited to be a part of this, and especially with Dr. Doreen Downing that I've met through some other things in Deborah Beecham. So again, thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you. Dr. Doreen?
Yes, I'm Dr. Doreen Downing, and I'm founder of the Essential Speaking Institute, where I teach people to find their voice so they can speak more comfortably, confidently out in public. And what I am here now to do is to also share my own breakthrough with my own anxiety, my own story, but I'm also so glad to be part of this panel that has learned some techniques, some ways of being that will serve others. And I'm actually a newcomer to the block, you guys, so thank you for inviting me.
And you're welcome. And before we move on to our keynote speaker for our event, I want to highlight our Master of Ceremonies, Melahni Ake. She has truly been our Master of Ceremonies for all of our events. And Melahni, I just truly appreciate you and all that you do for our event. So thank you.
You're welcome. It's my honor because I really believe in the power of ourselves, right? The power of becoming who we're supposed to be, reaching our potential through our stories. And that's what you are allowing all of these panelists to do is connect and bond in a deeper way to resources that can actually change their life. So it's important. It's so valuable.
Yes, ma'am. And it's important now more than ever to raise awareness and educate others about anxiety. Thank you. Now, Deborah Beecham, please introduce yourself.
Yes, hi, I'm Deborah Beecham, the CEO of Navigating Justice in Atlanta, Georgia, and I'm honored to be your keynote speaker and to be back for my third event. I am just so impressed with the group of panelists. Every event is so valuable, and I'm learning so much and taking away tips and tools and resources and ideas, things that I haven't thought of. And I've been working very hard to overcome anxiety. And, it's nice to be able to say I'm overcoming anxiety and, that I'm working through this. It's a process. It's definitely not an overnight task. And there may be things that work, 1 month and maybe not the next, because life throws at us so many different things like we've had with COVID. And I apologize for not being on video, but the good news is I did successfully get one of my twins, just made it for his first shot of the vaccine. And I can say that having gotten my first vaccine and now his, that my stress level is lower. So I'm actively, working to combat anxiety on a regular basis. But I'm excited for this week's event and to talk about, the hurdles and what's working, because, I'm living proof that, you can be gripped with very intense anxiety and make progress. I mean, to the point where, I have days and weeks and really actually months now where I don't think about anxiety. Like it's just something, from the past. And now I know when something really big hits me that causes concern, uncertainty, even some level of fear might kick in. Instead of being afraid of that feeling, I now know what to do about it. And that's really exciting. So I'm looking forward to sharing and hearing from the rest of the panelists on Friday.
I love it. And we are so honored to have you as our keynote speaker, Deborah. We appreciate you. Now, can each of you tell us more about what inspired each of you to become advocates for mental health? Let's start off with Dr. Doreen.
I would say that what inspired me originally was my position in the family, being the oldest daughter and also a mother who had depression. And I think that put me in a position to understand firsthand, to see what it's like to have somebody struggling with mental illness. And I think from there, it was kind of a natural journey for me to find myself at UC Berkeley getting a PhD in psychology so that I could really learn how to deal with things that I really couldn't with my mom, who was suffering. So if I learned techniques and I learned really more about human behavior, then it seemed like I could add more value to more people that suffer from anxiety.
Thank you, Dr. Doreen. Melahni?
I think we're surrounded by people that are struggling, and it may not be apparent to us on the surface, but so many people are struggling with things inside and in your own families. My grandmother went through shock treatment because of anxiety way back in the 60s. And so before I was born, she unfortunately took her life. And my mother raised me, not having a mother. And so I look at all of those things and, if that one thing could have helped her just be able to deal with the anxiety and the pressures of the world, things could have been a little bit different, right? And so we all are touched or know a story. And so when it affects us personally, we really campaign behind it and say, I wish people could have a better understanding, a better path of realizing the resources that are around us today, right? That was 2 generations before me. And I think, my goodness, if people are still feeling that way, not knowing that there are resources out there or not knowing the steps to take to be able to communicate their fears and anxieties, it can change your life. So that's why I say having these types of formats and these types of panels to say, we're going to educate you, we're also going to resource you. And that's what I think is so important. It's the next action step. What are those things that you can do and apply, like Deborah and Dr. Downing have talked about every single day to help you with a strategy. And once you start that and you start consistency on those practices, then you can absolutely change your life and no longer have those fears that can paralyze you. So
Very inspiring. Thank you for sharing that with us, Melahni.
you're welcome.
Deborah? Deborah, are you still with us?
She might have gone through a tunnel.
I am. Thank you. I muted for a minute since I have my dog with me, and she's part of my anti-anxiety program. Having a new puppy will definitely take your mind off of things, and but yeah, I echo what you all have been saying, and I think this is the right place and the right time to dig deep and to get very specific about what we're all doing and what works, and to reassure people that they're not alone. And it's still COVID still has things very difficult where a lot of people do feel alone, and the work that I do with parents and children who are dealing with family conflict, that has only escalated during COVID and made it it's been much harder for people to get into a courtroom, to get an issue brought before a judge, or to get help from either police or an agency with domestic violence. And so I think the more we have this conversation and make it available like you're doing with the podcast and on Facebook Live and in Zoom, I believe we're saving lives. So I'm honored to be a part of it. Thank you.
You're welcome. Now, we have 3 questions that came in from an anonymous source. So this is for all of you. So any of you can answer the question. The first question is, what causes anxiety?
I'll go first.
Okay.
Yes, Doreen here. I would say in my research at UC Berkeley, as well as my, 40 almost years of practice in my office, one-on-one with people who are suffering, it's layers. It's not just one cause. That's what self-awareness aids in helping people understand what layers are inside of them that have anxiety. There's the physical, of course, the heartbeat racing and the breathing that gets shallow. And that's how you go, oh, I'm anxious. But then ask the question of, what is this about? So to say, what causes anxiety, I think for each person, it's an inner exploration.
Very powerful. And the next question is, what are the signs and symptoms of anxiety?
I'm going to answer. For me, it's hard to focus. I may have, like a memory lapse, forget what I was doing next, and I've had a hard time slowing my mind down, especially at night. Or I'll wake up in the middle of the night and immediately the thoughts come racing in about, what's happening tomorrow? What about this? What about that? And it can be gripping and paralyzing. And I know for, I'm going to say some of the kids that I've worked with who've shown that anxiety is, a big part of their lives, that they're looking for anything to self-medicate and self-soothe. So I would say if somebody is inclined to make decisions around substances, whether it's drinking too much or, I see a lot of people who were not smokers take up smoking because they say it helps take the edge off of their anxiety. So, if you're inclined to reach for a substance, anything that helps self-medicate, I'm not the doctor here. I'll defer to her next, but I would just say these are things that I see a lot in my practice.
Thank you, Deborah. And now the last question here is, what are some of the resources you recommend to help educate others regarding overcoming anxiety?
I'll answer that. I think a lot of it has to do with your inner circle, who you surround yourself by, and getting professional help is a lot of that, in not feeling like if you say something, if it's validated, that that's going to put you as a label, and that you're not going to get the support and sources that you need. Really speaking out about whatever it is that you are challenged with, that you are finding that you're having a difficulty overcoming. There are people all over the world that are here to develop strategies with you. So, you always compare yourself to other people and say, well, I can't do it as easy as that other person. Well, it may be because you just have different gifts. Doesn't mean that you can't do something. It's just that you have to really step into who you are instead of worrying about, I can't get that A in college, or I can't get that A on that test, or I can't get that job that I want. And we create our own anxiety sometimes because of our own beliefs about what we should be doing, instead of just like accept who you are and have grace about it and know that you were designed for purpose on purpose, and that let that fear go and let God work in your life. And because that is where your true calling comes out. And so a lot of that anxiety can, you can work through that, but you have to have that inner faith to be able to see that in your own self and your own potential. Get a coach.
Get a coach. Very inspiring. Thank you, Melanie. We appreciate you. Now, where can the audience find each of you?
This is Dr. Doreen, and I can be found at essentialspeaking.com is my website, Essential Speaking, because what I work on is the essence of people and tapping into the true voice. And if you want my 7-step guide where I share secrets, it's Doreen7steps.com, Doreen7steps.com, and that's DOREEN, Doreen7steps.com.
Thank you. Melanie?
Okay, so you can go to everydayleaders.com. And I actually have an audiobook that's just been released about my chapter of developing your life to be an everyday leader. So you can follow my journey. You can download that for free just by going to everydayleaders.com and filling that out. And I'd be happy to share my journey with you. I think everybody has the potential to be a leader in their life. So all you need is some people to surround you to be your cheerleaders, and you can do it.
I love it. Thank you. And Deborah?
This is Deborah Beecham, Navigating Justice. The website is navigatingjustice.org, and I specialize in working with parents and children during high conflict events, whether it's something involving domestic violence or a divorce or a child custody case, because litigation is very stressful and anxiety is ever present during litigation, almost across the board. So most families try to reach out to me before they enter the courtroom so we can talk through strategies for reducing and managing anxiety. Thank you, Gigi.
You're welcome, Deborah. Now, are there any last words that any of you would like to share before we close out here?
Don't miss it. You're going to be sorry if you miss this panel because these are amazing. Things come out that people have never shared before. And I've watched every single one of these panels and the Facebook groups that are created after this. It's a bonding of people to again, create resources that you can tap into. You don't have to be, you don't have to be in the chat. You can just watch and learn something and share this with people in your lives that you love that are struggling right now.
I love it. Ladies and gentlemen, make sure to reserve your virtual seat today. That's the Global Virtual Panel of Anxiety Survivors event that will take place on April 9th at 5 p.m. Eastern. You can go to the search engine on Facebook and type that in. And once you type that in, you can mark yourself going, go to Eventbrite and reserve your seat today because this event will be sold out. We only have a few seats left. And ladies, thank you again for being a guest on Walk With Me podcast. I truly appreciate each of you.
Thank you, Gigi.
Thank you, Gigi.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Bye.